One of the top searches for Rise of Kingdoms is how to get power fast. But what if I told you that you're all asking the wrong question? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms gameplay episode from your very own Shappy Gaming. And today we are going to be discussing how power works and how power actually compares to what might be even more important, which is true strength within the game. And true strength is compiled of a couple things, which we'll be breaking down. Now, if you're excited about this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. That's going to be right over there, bottom right-hand corner. Helps me out a lot, and it helps make sure you don't miss videos like this. So, let's begin this video by talking about what is power and why does anyone actually care about it. In the early game, when you first start out in Rise of Kingdoms, power is really important. And power is really important for a couple reasons. The first of which is that in the early game of Rise of Kingdoms, alliances will tend to only accept you if you have a certain amount of power. And so that's why one of the biggest searches is, how do I gain more power? How do I gain power fast? How do I hit 1 million power? But realistically, as you start to get beyond that question of 1 million power, the question should be changing. It should be less about how do I hit a certain amount of power and should be more geared towards how do I get a certain amount of strength. And it is in this fixation in power that I think there's a lot of problems that come. Let's take a look at what power is actually comprised of, and I'll answer the question, of course, how you gain power quickly. Power is comprised of a few different things here. It's comprised of building power, it's comprised of technology power, it's comprised of troop power, and it's comprised of commander power. Now, one thing you'll notice here is that technology power and building power and commander power bring you to right around, I want to say, what is that, 56 million power. What this means is that most of the time when a person gets zeroed and they're a full T5 player, they're probably going to be around 56 million power. That's just kind of like the bare minimum. Now, the rest of that, anything above that 56 million power, is really going to be troop power. And troop power is mainly made up based upon the number of units you have and the type of units you have. You can see it in the troop details right here. All of this is kind of irrelevant because when you're in KVK, you're going to be killing these troops. And honestly, if it were me, I would be more concerned about the total number of troops than the troop power. The reason for this is if you have 4 million T4 troops versus 2 million T5 troops, I'm going to be a lot more scared to zero the guy with 4 million T4. That's just me, but hey, let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm not here to argue about it. Now, the bigger question is, how does this then compare to strength? What is strength in Rise of Kingdoms? Shappy, what the heck are you talking about? Strength really relates to how valuable a player is, which when you're talking about migration, when you're talking about KVK matchmaking, when you're talking about going into a war, whether it be civil war before Kingsland is even opened or before Lost Kingdom's even open, that's what really matters. And what I think strength depends more on, interestingly, is actually going to be commander power and, honestly, your ratio. Why the ratio? Well, commander power really is culminated based upon your commanders. Duh. But commander power indicates how many commanders you have maxed and how valuable those commanders are. This also has an effect when it comes to equipment. For example, if I took all of my equipment off of Boudica, right now you can see she has 140k. If we take all of the equipment off, she's all the way down to 127. So the commander power also relates to how much equipment you have on a commander, which, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched my How to Lower Power Fast short, I'll link that on the top right side of the screen for you. One of the things is actually just removing your equipment. So commander power is a really valuable metric when we talk about how strong someone is because it gives you an indication of what commanders they have maxed, how good their equipment is, and how strong they're going to be in the field. Because if you have more commanders maxed that are legendary, you're going to have a higher commander power. So that's commander power. Now, what about this other metric, these ratios that you talk about, Shappy? Well, let's take a look at these. I currently have 71 million power, and I have almost 3.1 billion kill points. and I have 22.5 million dead, or 220, I don't know, 222 million dead. Got it right. Drop a like if you enjoyed that struggle. So, with that, that means that my ratio is actually not terribly bad. I have a low power, which means I'm really cheap when it comes to KVK matchmaking and when it comes to, just general combat or things like that. But I kill off a lot of troops and I have a pretty decent kill point score. Some might argue with me on that. Be sure to check out Plato's video on farmer versus fighter, but that's not what we're debating. Now, where I really like to look at this is if I'm talking about within an alliance, how does my power stack up to my kills? So as you can see here, I'm 123 in power, but I'm only 80th in kills, which means I kill way more kill points above my power level. I'm punching above my weight class, so to speak. This is how I would really start to think of strength, is for their power, is that person carrying their weight? You can look at KVK metrics and things like that, but if you're just trying to identify, how do I have strength? Strength of a character within Rise of Kingdoms and a governor is really going to be based upon these ratios that we're taking a look at. So I have top 80 kills, but I'm only in top 123 power. Now, how does this work beyond just within your alliance? Let's look at scale, right? I don't care about power. My main concern here is, can I have enough troops to be able to get the kills that I want and be able to get as many dead as I want to keep my ratios consistent? That's what power is really valuable for. Because one thing that many people don't know, and this is big news, despite there being 150 million power cap on Imperium, which is the ranking that you get, if you have a lot of whales, despite that, when you do go into matchmaking, all power above that cap is still counted. And so one of the things that I've seen happen is alliances like Mimi and kingdoms like Mimi, or the kingdoms that Baba go to, end up getting really poor matchmaking because these players have really, really high power. And the issue is, those people, even with their great fighting, because they have so much power, they're not hitting the same levels of ratios. As you can see, 70 million power to 3 billion kills. That typically is not the same ratio. If you were to take all of Baba's power and divide it up and say, let's say instead of, his 1 billion power, you could get 15 people of 70 million power with this many kill points or better. Realistically, I'm not a major killer. I'm not going to pretend I am, or better. My expectation is it would probably end up being more than Baba's kill points. And that's one of the key things that we're talking about here when we talk about strength versus power. In Rise of Kingdoms, power doesn't really matter. Power is just a measure of how many troops you have once you get above that 56 million points marker. Now, here's a fun thing if you stuck around this far. I took a look at the big KVK, the big one, that just went on, and I thought, let's actually see how it compares. So here we are. We have individual power rankings from this KVK. This is the 93, 2605, 1960 KVK. I have a breakdown of all of the different powers. You have Yoda, who has 548 million power, which is a ton. You have Boom Boom Boom, and you have Fluffy Pony. You have this person right here, and then you have this person right here. Now, let's remember those. Those are the top 5 players by power, which means they should also be the top 5 players by kills. Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but let's continue looking. You see Rigor Mortis up here. You see Fat Hands. You see Addie Lloyd. You see Leopard. RIP, we miss you. You see 1-2 and Ghost Rider. All major players in Rise of Kingdoms. Okay, let's move on. We have some couple. Hey, there's Chisgul. Shout out. And then let's move on to how those players actually fare when we talk about kills. So here are the kills. You'll notice that none of those top players that I just mentioned in the top 5 are in the top for kills. But you will notice that Leopard, who has unfortunately quit the game, is in the top 5 for kills. He has 59 billion kill points. I'm not a big Leopard fanboy, but if I were looking at Leopard and I was going to bring him into my kingdom, or I was going to evaluate his power for matchmaking, I would rather have Leopard, who's only number 10 in power, to probably Yoda. And no offense to Yoda, he's a great guy, great player, but that's just what I would look at. Now, let's look at someone else. You see Chisgul here. Love him. Let's look at his power. We see he is at, looking at this, I think Chisgul is at 152 million power, and he's ranked 16. But if we take a look at his kills, let's see how he stacks up. Is he in here? Mm, 16, 152. I don't see him, which means that even though he's number 16 in power, he's not up there in kills, which is one of the reasons why this power thing is so important. Power should equate to rankings and kills. Let's look at my personal KVK that we're in right now. Here we are. We're back. Love Chisgul, by the way. No offense to him whatsoever. I think that he's a great player and his kills are great. Check out his videos. But let's take a look here at individual power and individual kills. You can do the same thing in your KVK if you're in it. Come in here and look at the top power. Reset 4 and Ekram Farm 2 and Kate. All great players. I'm familiar with them. Let's go look at the top kills. Ekram Farm 2. And then look. We're missing the other 2 players here, which technically means for their power, they're not delivering the same amount of kill points for their rank. I hope that this has been helpful. For me, if I were a player and I was trying to evaluate, should someone be at their current power? Should we let them into our kingdom? How does their power affect our KVK matchmaking? That's what I'm going to be looking at. Is I'm checking their power in equation to their kills or their deads. I hope that this has been helpful. If you are low power, don't worry about it. Focus on getting your commanders to the right place. Focus on getting your equipment to the right place and delivering the most value that you possibly can to your kingdom. Thank you all. Once again, if you've enjoyed, be sure to hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right-hand corner. Hit the bell so you get notified. Drop a like if you've enjoyed the video. Big shout out to Chisgul. Thank you for being part of this video, even though you probably don't know that you are. Thank you all. Chappy out.